Welcome, everybody. Welcome, Greek U Nation, to episode number 153 of the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Eilon. I am the CEO of Greek University. I'm also a speaker and an author of the book, From Letters to Leaders, Creating Impact on Your College Campus and Beyond. Fun fact for you today, I have dual citizenship. I have two passports. I have one, a US passport. The other is an Israeli passport. And I am already starting to think about my travel plans as countries start to open up for tourism again. I can't wait to travel. So we call these episodes the Fraternity Foodie Podcast because there's nothing like great food to bring fraternity and sorority and college leaders together. After you listen to this podcast episode today, you're going to learn how you can achieve the goal of debt-free college, which I know is so important to all of our listeners. Also, if you're already in college and you are planning to apply to law, medical, business, or grad school, we have some great tips for you as well, so stay tuned. Now, I have to read a testimonial to you about our guest today. I thought this testimonial was incredible. Here's the testimonial. I had a 4.0 GPA in undergrad and excellent MCAT scores. And because of that, my pre-med advisors told me, don't worry, you're in for sure. I was utterly shocked when I didn't get in anywhere. My parents were horrified, and my mom immediately went online and found Jeannie. After I completed Jeannie's required 3-hour audio class and did the 2-part brainstorming she recommended, I felt extraordinary hope. Jeannie helped me come up with a personal statement that made people laugh and cry. And the next time I applied, I got so many interviews that I had to cancel half of them. I got into med school immediately this time with a 100% full ride scholarship. Do yourself a huge favor, let Jeannie Burlowski help you with your med school application the first time around. I mean, that totally blew me away when I saw that testimonial. So for all of our listeners, if you're nervous about all the debt you're piling up right now going to college, or maybe the pandemic threw you for a loop in terms of making money while you're at school, or just make you nervous about taking the next step for law school, med school, or grad school, we have some answers for you today. We have with us Jeannie Burlowski. Jeannie is a full-time academic strategist, a podcast host, and she is a sought-after speaker for students ages 12 to 26 and their parents and grandparents. Her writing, speaking, and podcasting help parents set their kids up to graduate college debt-free and move directly into careers they excel at and love. Her work has been featured in publications such as the Huffington Post, USA Today, Parents Magazine, and U.S. News and World Report, as well as CBS News. Jeannie also helps students apply to law school, med school, business, and grad school at her website, which is getintomedschool.com. You can also follow her on Twitter at jburlowski. Welcome to the show, Jeannie.
Well, it's great to be here.
Oh, man, it is great having you on the show. We have so much to talk about today.
Yes. You know, people hear that I help people get through college debt-free. The first thing they always think is, oh, she's going to talk to us about scholarships. The last thing I want to do is spend a Saturday afternoon filling out scholarship applications. And I don't blame students who think this. I don't think it sounds like much fun either. And what I do is I help students use other more clever strategies other than just applying for scholarships to get through college debt-free. And isn't it true that if we can get kids to worry less about money, get through college debt-free, they'll have more money to spend on good food now and in the future?
Amen. You're a perfect match for my family because we love good food. And get this, I have 2 kids, right? I have a 16-year-old son and I have a 14-year-old daughter, and they're already starting to think about college. So this episode is totally perfect. So why don't we start with this? What is an academic strategist, and how did you become an expert in the field of debt-free college. What story is this all about?
Really? Yeah, interesting. So for 25 years, I've had a private consulting practice where I help students apply to law school, medical school, graduate school, business school. And one of the things I have to ask students about is about their debt load. Because if you have $180,000 in undergrad debt right now, and then we add on $300,000 of medical school debt on top of that, sometimes I have to tell students, I'm sorry, you actually can't go to medical school now because you would have so much debt you could never pay it all back on a doctor's salary. You would have to work in the emergency room during the day and then deliver pizzas at night just to make ends meet. So sometimes I have to, I didn't sign up to crush people's dreams by telling them this reality. Sometimes I have to say, we have to find some other career for you that will not require so much debt. And a lot of times when I would ask students, how did this happen? How did you get $180,000 in undergrad debt? They would say to me, well, my parents or my guidance counselor, or this one really burns me, a really expensive educational consultant hired by the family for thousands of dollars told my family that if I went to the college that wasn't giving me any help, but had the really fancy brand name, that I would have a better chance of getting into medical school. And that's not even true. And I know it's not true because I help students get into top 20 medical schools who went to Joe Blow podunk drinking school. And it's not even hard for me to do that. So that's been a big part of my journey, has been this heartbreak. It's one thing to talk about student loan debt when you're just reading about it in the newspaper, but when you're seeing the crushing effects right in the face of people that you genuinely care about, it takes on a whole different aspect. So that's the sad part. But the happy part is that in 25 years, I have had some of the most strategic, brilliant students in the country coming through my office. And sometimes when I would say, how much student loan debt do you have right now? For looking at the cumulative, they would say, I have zero. And I would say, how? You have zero? How did you do that? Because I just had the $180,000 girl in my office, right? And they would say, oh, tuition reimbursement. While I was taking college classes, I was working part-time for real money. And my employer also wrote a check to help pay for my tuition. Wow. Or they would say, I did dual enrollment college classes in high school, or I went to community college for 2 years and then I switched over and transferred everything to a 4-year school and graduated with a 4-year degree, no problem. And I'm thinking, these are brilliant money-saving ideas. So I was writing down all of these strategic ideas and shoving them in a file in my desk drawer. Because Mike, here's what consultants do. We get brilliant ideas from one client and then we charge the next person by the hour to hear that exact same information. So I took this big giant file of ideas and the ideas are mainly geared for students who don't want to apply for scholarships or think they aren't getting any. And I compacted them and put them into a book titled Launch: How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt-Free and Into Jobs They Love Afterward. This is an extremely popular book with a national profile. And parents read it when parents who have kids ages 12 to 18 read this book so they can set their kids up to graduate college debt-free and then move directly into careers they excel at and love. But what I'm excited about today is that you and I are going to talk about strategies for students who are already in college and what can they do that can help them keep the debt load way down so that if they want to go to graduate school or medical school next year or next decade, they have plenty of financial solvency to be able to do whatever they dream of.
Wow, I love it. So first off, you're giving away all my secrets because I got best practices from 120 chapters in the country. And now I'm a consultant and I just share that with all of my clients and they absolutely love it. So you gave away my secret there. But I really love, and it's so refreshing to me that you're honest with the students that come to you because, you asking that question, how much debt do you have? And then giving them an honest assessment to say the med school bills are going to crush you. This is not the right place for you. I love it. It's so refreshing. Like we need honesty, brutal honesty, and not set up students for failure. I mean, it just drives me bananas when I see situations like that these kids are saddled with all of this debt.
Right. And I think there's this assumption that goes on that if you go to a good school and then you get a degree, life will naturally unfold from there. And it will unfold in a positive way. You hear this message from the time you're in high school. If you don't get into a good college, you won't get a good job when you graduate. Well, that's a lie. Don't we all know people who went to so-called bad colleges and they have great jobs? Now, I'm not talking about for-profit colleges. We stay away from those like the plague, but it is possible to have an amazing life after having gone to even a very mediocre college. And the kind of lies that students hear, like, oh, if you go to this college and you get a degree, a job will naturally unfold out of that. Well, sorry to say, we're seeing kids who graduated from top 20 schools who are working as coffee shop baristas and their waiters and their cashiers and their nannies on care.com. Why is it? Because there was no strategic planning done to see how could this degree actually turn into a job after college. And there's nothing, I mean, there's very little that makes me more sad than a student that has paid tremendous amount of money for a college education. They're done and they have no job prospects. And sometimes the schools say, well, what we do is we teach you how to think. Well, who cares if you know how to think if you don't have a job that can actually make money to pay your rent? Yeah. Having career preparation is really, really important. And as a matter of fact, I hope we're going to talk about this today, because career strategy is actually one of the number one things a college student can do to keep their debt way, way, way down.
So let's talk about that for a minute, because I remember when I was applying to college, my father actually got me a copy of the Help Wanted section of the New York Times. And he basically said, listen, you're looking for a career and you're looking to figure out your major, make sure it lines up with the jobs that are actually available right now. And, you know, funny story is that, you know, the Help Wanted is all in alphabetical order, and there was a ton of accounting jobs. And sure enough, I ended up going to school for accounting, graduating, and then heading into that field. So it's interesting how all of that plays out. But let's talk about that a little bit more. Let's talk about what is the responsibility of a college student right now. Let's say they are a freshman. Let's say they're either undecided or they're just trying to figure out their major. How do they tie that to a job that's going to pay them real money so they can pay back whatever debt they have or just make a good living?
Right. First of all, Mike, you really don't strike me as the accountant type.
I know, I don't.
So it's kind of funny that you chose your career and your major out of alphabetical order in the New York Times Help Wanted.
True story.
Actually have better, this is the 21st century now, so we have better, more strategic ways of helping students to get determine career goal. Now, besides the way that you chose career, second most common way that we hear is people hear this from the time they're in high school. Oh, don't worry about what you want to do when you're done. Just take random college classes to see what you're interested in. If you like your economics class, you might make a good economist. No, maybe you liked your economics class because your economics teacher was hot and a really, really good communicator, right? Mm-hmm. So that's a terrible way to figure out a career goal. Is anyone really going to say, I just took a $5,000 economics class and I hated it. Now I know I can cross economics off my list. It's not cost effective, and it takes a tremendous amount of time and effort to try to figure out career that way. So that is not recommended. And if I wish one thing, I wish high school teachers, college counselors at high schools, and parents, I wish they would stop saying, don't worry what you want to do when you're done, just take random college classes to see what you're interested in. It doesn't work, and it's caused millions of adults to get into jobs that they hate and that they can't wait to get home from at the end of every day. A better strategy is, and this especially works well if we want students to get through with as little debt as possible. The thing we want to avoid is a student who spends 4 years getting a political science degree, for example, and then they say, guess what? I looked on Craigslist. There are no political science jobs available. I couldn't find a job as a political scientist. So now I'm going to go back to college, ask my dad to pay for 2 more years of college for a total of 6 years. And I'm going to get a 2-year RN degree. So I can at least go out in the community and I can be a registered nurse at a hospital and have a real skill and actually make some money. And this happens all the time. And so this is where you really, really rack up a tremendous amount of debts by going to college for 6 years or 7 years. Some people say that if you spend 2 extra years in college, it can cost you $300,000 by the time you calculate in lost income and stunted retirement savings and extra tuition payments. What we want students to do is know early on what they're aiming for, and then go like an arrow straight toward a bullseye with not one wasted class, not one wasted dollar. And how do we do this? And I recommend that students take 3 career assessments. And I would love for students to take these career assessments in 10th grade. How old is your kid?
Yeah, 10th grade. This is it right here.
Okay. Take these assessments in 10th grade or as soon as possible after that. So age 26 or 30 or 55 is not too late, but the optimal time is 10th grade. And the 3 assessments I really want students to take are the Myers-Briggs type indicator, which has to be administered by a certified person. I'm not talking about some free quiz that you get off of Facebook. That's a fake bootleg one. Then the strong interest inventory, which is made by the same publisher. And then the Clifton Strengths Assessment, which was formerly called StrengthsFinder 2.0. And what we do is converge, and actually I don't do this, I refer out for this. The qualified certified person converges the results of this like lines on an asterisk coming together and says, okay, here's your personality type, here's what you love and you're naturally drawn to and you're attracted to and you're interested in. Here's your top 5 strengths based on Gallup research. You know, when we pull all this together, we see that you might actually make a fantastic accountant. Or you might make a great consultant, or you might make a professional speaker, or you might be a person who is going to lead a Fortune 500 company, or you might make a great lawyer, or you might actually make a great electrician, or a construction manager, or a plumber. And, you know, people think, oh, I don't think my kid's a candidate for tech school. He's too smart for that. You know that some of the most highly paid people in the country have graduated from tech school, and some of them went on to college and got a little bit of business marketing management experience, and they've got electrical trucks going out all over the city, and they're making money off of everything that all these plumbers and electricians are doing all day long. It is a noble thing to go to 2 years of technical school and have actual career skill and be able to make money right off the bat at the age of 19 or at the age of 20. But I'm not going to push everybody to go to technical school. Why? Because there are some kids out there that it's God's calling on their life to be a doctor or to be a special ed teacher, or to be a coach, or a person who directs high school theater productions. There are many different things that a person could be cut out for. And I don't want to say, just go to technical school. It's cheaper, it's faster, you'll be able to make money. No, the route to getting through college into careers we excel at and love is to really know ourselves and have the vocabulary to articulate, this is what my personality type's about. I am extroverted, I'm not introverted. I get energy from being with people. Here's how I get energy, process information, make decisions. Here's what I'm naturally interested in. These are my top 5 strengths. And I really talk about this in detail in chapter 13 of the book I wrote, Launch How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt-Free and Into Jobs They Love Afterward. And there are plenty of wealthy families that have no worries about getting their kid through college debt-free. But they get a copy of this book simply for chapter 13 because what they tell me is, I care that my kids are working in jobs they love. I want them to get up in the morning at the age of 24 and be excited to go to work. I want them to be mad when they're sick and they can't go to work. I want them to be so excited that when it's time to retire early at the age of 53 because they managed their money so well, they say to themselves, I don't even have to work, but I want to work because I love it so much, because I'm good at it and what I do contributes and helps the world. And so chapter 13 explains to the parent and to the child, here are these 3 assessments, and here's exactly what they are, and here's how you take, where you go to take them, and here's how many questions are on each one, and here's the benefit you get from each one. And this is recommended for students who are in 10th grade or as soon as possible. After that, it's never too late. Now, one question, Mike, that I know your listeners are going to want to ask me is, where do we go to get these things? Because you have to have a certified person administer the Myers-Briggs type indicator. It has to be a human talking to you and interpreting the results. This is why the little career assessments that are given at the high school are not recommended. And there are some students listening here today that are going to say, I don't want to take those career assessments. I had them in high school. They were dumb. They said I should be a lumberjack or a bartender. I don't want to do those. And what I want to say to the student thinking that is, this is not the same. That's scored by a robot. What I'm talking about is a real human being that knows you, that asks you questions, that gets to know you, that helps to shape these results around who you actually are. So where do you go to get the help? You can go to a career development office at your college or university, and you can walk in the door and say, I want to take the Myers-Briggs type indicator and the strong interest inventory. Who is there in this office that is certified to administer those to me? And sometimes in that case, it'll be free. The Clifton Strengths Assessment, which was formerly called StrengthsFinder 2.0, is available on Amazon, little white book with red writing on the outside, and it's only less than $20, including delivery to your house. That you can go on Amazon and search for StrengthsFinder 2.0. It's all one word. Now, I also, at my website, which is JeannieBurlowski.com, at the very top, I have an approved consultants tab. And these are people who have read my book cover to cover. They know exactly what I teach and expect. And there's financial advisors. There's a person there that does this converging of the 3 career assessments. The person I most highly recommend is Cindy Matson. She's on the top of the approved consultants tab at JeannieBurlowski.com. And people who go there are able to pick someone who understands about these concepts and strategies on debt-free college and can pull all of this together. And Mike, I'll tell you, you got a 10th grader. Okay, my kids were in 10th grade. I sent them to this Cindy Matson person. I get nothing for telling you this, okay? There's no affiliate agreement. There's no kickback. I'm just telling you, this is the best money I ever spent on my kids in their entire lives. And bar none. And when my son was 18 years old and he was going out my door to go away to college all the way on the other side of Lake Michigan, this is a kid that I had suffered infertility before having him. So this kid matters all the world to me. And I could feel that umbilical cord stretching all the way across Lake Michigan. And the biggest thing that was a comfort to me is I knew he was going to the right place. He had picked the right school and he knew what he wanted, what he loved. It was going to be perfectly in tune with his personality type and his interests and his strengths. He was going to be able to get clear career coaching while he was there and work experience. And because I knew he was going to the best place for him, that was an incredible comfort to me. And that was easily worth 1,000 times what I paid for that career assessing lady with converging the 3 career assessments. Now, how does this help people save money? Well, if you know from the get-go where you're going, you make a clear, straight path to get there, like an arrow straight to a bullseye. And your goal as a student is not one wasted class, not one wasted dollar. I'm getting there as quickly and efficiently as I can. that is a huge money saver, especially over, I'm just going to take a random degree, and then if I don't like it, I'll do more school. And that gets more and more and more expensive.
Yeah. Let's assume for a moment that my son takes the career assessment like you're suggesting, right? And your main focus is getting kids through college debt-free without scholarships. But you also say that applying for scholarships is a great idea. And you have this radical idea when it comes to scholarships. Tell us about that.
Well, there are plenty of students that are just going to say, I don't feel like it. I don't have any belief. I don't think that I'm going to get any. So they don't apply for scholarships. And there are many families that think, oh, my kid can't get any scholarships. He doesn't have high enough grades or test scores. It's actually not true. People get fantastic scholarships, even if they don't have great grades or test scores. But what I try to emphasize is our number one thing we want you to do is get the low-hanging fruit. Use the strategies that don't take a Saturday afternoon of filling out applications. Okay, so students are doing this. They're using clever strategy that's easy to do. And then they think to themselves, man, what would happen if I filled out a few scholarship applications? Or parents are thinking, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna pay my kids $50 for every scholarship application they fill out in a quality manner. My kid can write one scholarship application essay and then use the same one over and over again with minor tweaks. And kids start to think, wow, you mean I could do 3 of them in one afternoon and make $150? And the parents are, yes, honey. And the parents a cash register is ringing in the parents' head because these scholarships are not that hard to get. And so some students are making it a policy to apply for 10 scholarships every year, some of them are starting as early as 8th grade, 10 scholarships every single year, going all the way through college, all the way through graduate school. And for some of your students right now that are listening, college students right now, they're dropping their jaw and they're saying, oh my gosh, I thought you only applied for scholarships during your senior year of high school. Right. And what I say is, hey, that's when kids are the busiest. Parents, why don't we just tell kids not to apply for any during their senior year of high school? They're too busy, too much of a transition year. But if I can inspire students to want to apply for them, 8th grade, and then all the way through high school, except the senior year, all the way through college, all the way through graduate school, simply the numerics of applying for 80 scholarships, you're probably going to get a good chunk of them. And for some students, that money is going to just roll right into their own pocket. And some of them are going to be able to use some of that money for going on spring break or buying a car. And I'll tell you this funny story. So I spoke at a high school in Minnesota, this packed out 500 people in this auditorium at a high school. And this dad waited in a long line at the end to shake my hand. And he said, I just wanted to tell you, we came here, I brought my son here to hear you speak last year. And we heard you speak about writing one scholarship application essay, using it over and over again. On the way home in the car, my son turned to me and he said, she's ridiculous. That'll never work. One scholarship application essay and then you tweak it and use it over and over again. That's ridiculous. And the dad, he was so smart. He turns to his son. He goes, why don't you just prove it to her? Why don't you just prove her how ridiculous she is? And the kid goes, I'm going to do it. I'm going to not just apply for 10 scholarships this year. I'm going to apply for 20. And then I'm going to go back to her and say, look, your ideas didn't work. I didn't get any of them. And the dad was standing in the line to tell me that the son had gotten 8 of them. Wow. This ordinary kid, ordinary grades, ordinary test scores. He had gotten 8 of them and had $8,000. No, he had $20,000 out of that 8 scholarships, $20,000 extra and free money to help pay his college bills. Wow, there is money out there, but I don't want families to think that I'm all about scholarships. I'm all about the easier things. And then when students get inspired or parents want to pay $50, then some students who follow me do fill out a lot of scholarship applications. And I got a resource for your listeners here. Anyone who will Google my last name, which is Burlowski, Burlowski, and the word slash, SLASH. I've written an article called Slash Your Student Loan Debt, and this is geared specifically for students in college or graduate school who have student loan debt right now, and they would love to just slash it in half or slash it by 25% before they ever even graduate from college. And it gives you some strategies, and there are some scholarship strategies in there, including where to look to apply for them. And then second resource I want to extend to your listeners is, and this is especially for parents, but many, many, many students do this too. I have a free weekly email newsletter that comes out every Monday morning. And what it does is it always has a helpful article. It keeps debt-free college at the top of your mind, parents, when your kids are between the ages of 12 and 26. And to subscribe to that, you can unsubscribe at any time, but you can just get one and see how you like it. You go to this link, and you're going to put this in the show notes, Mike, bit.ly/helpful newsletter. And that's all lowercase, all one word. Be like boy, bit.ly/helpful newsletter, all lowercase, all one word. Anyone can get that for free. And when you do get it for free, instantly, 1 second later, I send you an email and say, hey, here's some debt-free college training, just 10 minutes of video training based on the age of your kid. And so here, this will inspire you and tell you exactly how to get your kid to the debt-free college goal with as little time and money spent as possible. So that's a free gift, totally worth it, even if you just only subscribe for a week.
I love it. It's absolutely fantastic. Now, a lot of our listeners are current college students that are thinking about applying to law school, med school, business, or grad school. So is there any particular strategies, any particular cost-saving ideas that you have for them at this moment?
Yes. So, I started my career 25 years ago in academic strategy and helping students figure out how am I going to orchestrate life so that I step right into a top medical school, law school, grad school, business school. Students would tell me, I don't want to apply 3 times. I just want to do this once and I want to get in. And what students would love to do is they would love to have such an amazing application, such a fantastic personal statement that the school would say to them, we not only want you in here, but we're going to give you money to come here. Like, we not only want you in this grad school program, but we're going to pay for the whole thing for you. We not only want you in medical school, but we're going to give you a free ride to medical school. And so at my website, getintomedschool.com, anybody can meet me. They can hear about how I help students to structure personal statements from the ground up. Now, there is a cost for those services, but I will tell your listeners this secret. Every January, my services go on sale. And for that month, my client entry fee is on sale for 90% off. And so anyone who knows that they're going to go to medical school or grad school, the best thing to do is think about Jeannie Burlowski and getintomedschool.com 20 months before entry into that program. So some parents are writing this down in the calendar. I don't know if I'm going to need this lady or not, but I know January is the time to go. And for students who have January's passed and they're breathing down the neck of a medical school application they're trying to get in on June 1st, 2021. You're past the January, but it's still well worth it to just come and get professional help crafting a personal statement and an application to med school or grad school that will make people say, oh my gosh, this makes absolutely perfect sense. I don't even have a question about this. It's completely clear to me that you should be in this program. And I know you were on my getintomedschool.com page reading my testimonials. There's testimonials all over the place of people who thought they could never get in. And then I helped them and got some big results. Now, for students who are headed that direction, I have an article that I wrote that's called 12 Ways to Get Your Grad School Paid For. And I just make this available to the general public. And if you Google my last name, which is Burlowski, and grad school paid for, there's a beautiful article there with ideas most people never think of on how to get grad school paid for. And one of the ideas is you can apply for scholarships for grad school, and students who come to me and I help them craft this amazing, compelling personal statement, they use it, they tweak it, and use it over and over again to apply for 10 scholarships every single year, all the way through grad school. And so a lot of these students are getting grad school paid for as well as undergrad paid for with the kind of help that I provide. Does that answer your question about?
Yes, this is absolutely amazing. I'm going to put all of this in the show notes. I want them to sign up for your newsletter. I want them to see the grad school paid for article that you put out. This is great stuff that our listeners need right now. So this is very timely. I mean, this is absolutely amazing. Thank you.
One thing that it does is it gives students and parents hope.
Yeah.
Hope, because people worry, how am I going to carry this huge load of debt? I want to have a good paying job. I want to be able to do something that I love, but I don't want to be in a situation where I have to live in my parents' cinder block basement for 20 years because I can't afford to have my own apartment. And parents, they don't want the students in their basements either. They're trying to reserve their basements for things like cruise brochures and golf clubs. And so everybody wants students to launch and be debt-free and be thriving in adult life. And these are the kinds of strategies that I provide. And these are the kind of strategies that you're interested in providing here on your website and through your book, Letters to Leaders.
That's right.
Right?
From letters to leaders, right there.
Letters to leaders, creating impact on your college campus and beyond. People who read your book, Mike, they are able to craft experiences for themselves during the college years that can make a scholarship application or a grad school application into a real jaw dropper. If people read your book and they take even 2 ideas out of it, it can be a life changer.
There's no question about it. And that's really the reason why I wrote it, is because I didn't know of anything else like it. And I really wanted to make sure that students were entering into college with their eyes wide open, understanding what the problems are and how they could actually solve them. And then that really takes their resume or their application into grad school or wherever they're going to the next level, because they actually solve a real problem. And I believe that. I believe that the fraternity and sorority community is the answer to a lot of the problems that we're seeing on college campuses, such as alcohol abuse and things like that. I really believe that they are the solution. And we just have to give them some resources, just like you do, and amazing things happen. And then all the testimonials that you were talking about, I've got the same thing from all of these college students that get the resource and they implement it and they make a huge change on their campus for the better.
Yes.
So we're totally aligned.
Fraternities and sororities are so beneficial because a sense of community helps people to not fight debilitating loneliness that can contribute to anxiety and depression. And not only that, but the fraternities and sororities providing academic support and high expectations and having the academic vice president that's helping people. How is this going? How did midterms go for you? What can we do to bring our resources around you? Mm-hmm. That is incredibly powerful.
It is. That's the support structure that I needed. I remember my first semester at college, I just felt all alone at a university with 30,000 students, right? And then all of a sudden I joined the fraternity. Now I have this group of 40, 50 men. That's the support structure. They were telling me which classes to take with which professors, exactly, how to do everything and how to get from point A to point B. And I'm just really grateful for it. So I'm working as hard as I possibly can to make sure that other men and women get the same great experience that I got out of the fraternity system.
And I know that a lot of your listeners are parents as well. And so one idea for parents is you could get Mike's book, Letters to Leaders, and you could read it yourself as a parent. Sure. And just, your kids need just something that's fast and easy to digest. Use a yellow highlighter and dog ear the pages. and use some of the things in there as a conversation starter. And parents can say, hey, what do you think of this? What would you think of this idea? Or even more open-ended than that, is anyone that you know, anyone using this strategy? Or how about as an officer in your fraternity or sorority, you're tasked with helping students with this X task. Would you ever consider maybe using this strategy here from page 74? I dog-eared the page and I highlighted it for you. Yeah. And then the student opens up the book and says, you know, this is really useful. This is powerful. I'm going to read more of this. And so I think parents can be a catalyst to getting students to read an amazing book by reading it themselves and highlighting parts. Another one is The Defining Decade, Why Your 20s Matter and How to Make the Most of Them Now by Dr. Meg Jay, who's a therapist for 20-something students. That is an amazing book, and it has, I get nothing for telling you this, you know, I just think it's fantastic, and it's full of stories. It's a fast read, and that's a really good one for parents to read and highlight and then share with the kids. Wow. So we're providing a lot of resources here.
A lot of resources, a lot of note-taking is going on right now. So I absolutely love it. And as you know, because this is the Fraternity Foodie Podcast, we do love good food. Now, I know that you just moved from Arizona to Minnesota, so you probably haven't had a lot of time to check out the restaurants there in Minnesota. Have you found any good food yet?
Oh man, yeah. Well, actually, I lived in Minnesota before. I was in Arizona when I came back, so believe me, I know about the food in both places. So I thought you were going to ask me about this. I thought about favorite foods. One is my husband uses Alton Brown's pulled pork recipe, which is you rub this highly spiced rub with spices that you crush yourself. You rub it into a pork butt and put it in a backyard smoker. And then it's all smoky. It's falling off the bones. It's been smoked for 14 hours or something. And then we serve it over cilantro coleslaw that you get from Ina Garten's cilantro coleslaw recipe. Some people put it on a bun. We just eat it with just the coleslaw and the pork. That is amazing and a great dish that wows company. And then my favorite restaurant, shout out to the Good Earth restaurant in Roseville, Minnesota, where they have healthy food served cheerfully all day long from breakfast until dinner. And it's a place where you can get amazing vegetables, vegetarian dishes, you can get proteins, and their cinnamon spice tea is full of caffeine and will spur your creativity for a week.
Those are some great recommendations. I tell you what, if I'm speaking at the University of Minnesota, I'm coming to your house for the pork butt and all the fixins. I absolutely love it.
Do that. We could do another episode where both our heads are in the same frame.
I love it. I absolutely love it. All right. So if our listeners, if they have questions for you, if they want to book you as a speaker, if they want to buy your book, launch How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt Free and into jobs they love afterward, where should they go to get more information?
Well, all you need to know is how to spell my last name, which is Burlowski. If you're looking for launch How to Get Your Kids Through College Debt Free and into jobs they love afterward, you just go to Amazon and you plug in Burlowski, and there it'll come right up. And I want to tell parents, nobody reads this whole book cover to cover. It's a reference book. And so when you subscribe to my free weekly email newsletter at bit.ly/helpful newsletter, all lowercase, all one word, even if you only subscribe for 1 week, you get this free 10-minute video training based on the age of your kid. And it's me saying, here's how you get your kids through college debt-free with as little possible time and money spent. So that's incredibly valuable.
I love it. I'm going to sign up for the newsletter right now.
Good. When you do that, you'll find some really interesting articles in there. When you want to have me on the Fraternity Foodie Podcast again, you just ask. And then besides that, you asked about how people can find me for speaking. I love to go out and speak, because there's one thing to be on Zoom, and some of you are seeing my face on a little tiny thumbnail of a screen, but man, I love being with people in person. I love answering their individual questions after sessions are over. I've got a whole bunch of different presentations I do, homeschool conferences, colleges, universities, high schools, churches. And you can find me at jeannieburlowski.com/speaking, or just Google Burlowski speaking. It'll get you right there. Zillions of testimonies about my speaking and all my contact information.
I love it. This has been great. Thank you so much for your time, Jeannie. And we hope to see you on another episode of Fraternity Foodie sometime soon. Thank you so much for the time. This has been really great for our listeners.
Great to be here, Mike. Thanks for writing that book about letters to leaders. Amazing.
My pleasure. Thanks so much to our listeners. If you enjoyed this, make sure you sign up for Jeannie's newsletter and also check us out at the Fraternity Foodie Podcast. Thanks so much for your time. We'll see you on another episode.